The space station floated in silence. Outside the glass, there were only stars. Eli, the human engineer, sat alone in the control room. He had been alone for 148 days, no visitors. No messages, no trouble, just peace. And loneliness. Suddenly, a loud alarm broke the silence. Warning, unidentified object approaching. Eli stood up quickly and looked at the screen. An escape pod was falling fast toward the planet's surface. It was not from Earth. Its design was strange, almost alive. The system couldn't tell where it came from. He watched it crash just 3 kilometers away from the station. A bright light flashed, then silence again. Eli put on his suit and got into his rover. His heart beat faster than usual. He didn't know why, but something felt wrong. The crash site smoke covered the air. The pod had cracked open like an egg. Eli stepped closer and saw movement inside. Then he saw her, a girl, lying inside, shaking, her skin pale with a soft blue glow. She looked young, maybe 18, but not human. Her hair floated around her like it had its own life. Her eyes wide and scared. Eli aimed his light at her face. She raised her hands weakly. "Don't send me back," she whispered. "I'll be a good girl, I promise. Let me stay." Then she fainted. Back at the station, Eli carried her inside. He placed her on a medical bed and connected sensors. No ID, no record, no human match. Her body temperature was low. Heartbeat, fast, but alive. Hours passed. Finally, she opened her eyes again. "Where am I?" she asked softly. "You're safe," Eli said. "This is a human station. I'm Eli. Who are you?" She looked around like a scared animal. "My name is Alea," she said slowly. "I ran away. Please don't send me back." Her voice was soft, but her fear was deep. Eli asked, "Ran from what?" She didn't answer, just looked at him with watery eyes. "I want to stay here," she whispered again. "I can be useful. I can clean. I can cook. I can learn." She was almost begging. Eli didn't understand. Why was she so afraid? And why did she act like a lost child? Strange behavior. Alea stayed in the guest room. She ate little, spoke softly, and followed Eli everywhere like a shadow. She didn't sleep much. She watched the stars for hours, sitting still. Sometimes she would flinch at loud sounds. Once, when the alarm beeped, she covered her head and cried. Eli tried to ask more questions. "Where are you from? Who are you running from? What are you?" But Alea would only answer with silence. Or tears. Something's not right. 3 days passed. One night, the lights flickered. The station's system glitched. Doors opened and closed on their own. Eli checked the logs. Nothing made sense. Then he found something strange. Small chip hidden in Alea's clothes. It was not human technology. It was transmitting something. Eli froze. Was she a spy? Was she dangerous? He didn't wake her that night. He just watched her through the security camera. She was sitting by the window, crying silently. She looked so small, so lost, and yet he didn't trust her. Final scene, hook ending. The next morning, Alea walked into the control room. Eli stood with crossed arms. "I found this in your clothes," he said, showing the chip. "Care to explain?" She looked at it, and her face turned white. She dropped to her knees. No, please. That wasn't mine. They put it in. I didn't know." Tears streamed down her glowing cheeks. "Please don't make me leave," she cried. "I'll be a good girl. I'll do anything. Just let me stay." Eli stared at her. He wanted to believe her, but deep inside, he felt fear, because no one cries like that unless they're hiding something terrible. And the last words she said before collapsing again stayed in his mind. "They're coming. They'll kill us both." Asterisk. The morning came without color. No sunrise touched the sky. Only the cold light of the station filled the rooms. Eli stood near the window, eyes fixed on the stars, his mind heavy with questions. Alea was still asleep on the small bed, her face calm but too calm, like someone pretending to rest while hiding a nightmare. He stared at the small device in his hand, the chip. He found inside her clothes, alien design. It had no signal now, whatever it was doing. It had stopped, but why was it there at all? He walked to the medical lab, slid the chip under the scanner. The screen flickered with unknown symbols, then one word. Blinked into view, tracker. His breath caught in his throat. Someone or something had marked her, not just for search, but for recovery or destruction. She woke up a few hours later, smiled at him like nothing had changed, tried to cook breakfast. Though she barely knew how boiled water spilled, something caught on fire. She laughed nervously. Ale forced a smile back inside. He was asking again and again, "Who are you really?" They sat at the metal table, Alea holding a warm cup between her hands. Ale asked the question gently, "Where did you come from?" Elias looked away. "Far from here. Too far to matter." "What was the chip in your clothes?" She blinked fast. "What chip?" He held it up without saying anything. Her face froze. Then a tear rolled down. "They put that there. I didn't know. I didn't want them to find me." "Who?" asked they. She didn't speak, only stared into her cup like it could protect her from the truth later. That night Eli couldn't sleep. He sat in the control room, replaying camera footage. He watched Alea walking in her sleep, her fingers touching walls, her eyes open, but empty. She was whispering something. He turned up the volume. One line repeated again and again. "I must obey, I must obey, I must obey." Eli leaned back slowly. His blood felt colder than the room around him. This wasn't just fear. This was programming, conditioning, training. She wasn't just running from something. She was created for something, and she didn't even know what it was. The next day, Eli tried a new question, simple, direct, human. "Have you ever lied to me?" Alea looked confused, then scared, then still no, never. But her eyes said something else. She was lying. He knew it now, not because of her words, but because her hands trembled, because her voice had no weight, because her fear was too big for the truth. That evening the station lights flickered again. Short blackout, only 3 seconds. But enough. When the lights returned, Alea was gone from her room. Eli rushed through the halls, found her near the power core, standing still, eyes closed, whispering again, "I must obey, I must obey, I must obey." He called her name. She jumped, turned around, looked like a broken doll waking from a nightmare. "Why are you here? What are you doing?" She looked down. "I don't know, I just woke up here." Eli stared at her, wanted to believe, wanted to protect. But the lie was growing louder than the truth. She's not just afraid, she's dangerous. Not because she wants to be, but because someone else still holds the leash, and whoever they are, they're not far away now. As she walked back to her room, Eli looked at the stars again. A small red light blinked on the radar screen. Unidentified vessel approaching. It was still far, but it was coming straight toward them. No ID, no response. He didn't need a message to know what it meant. They had found her, and they were coming to take her back. The red light blinked again, then again, each pulse like a heartbeat, getting closer, getting louder. Eli watched it in silence. Alea sat quietly across the room, holding a cup of warm water, staring at it like she was lost inside. She didn't ask about the alarm. She didn't seem to hear it, or maybe she heard it too clearly and just didn't want to remember. Eli ran the DNA scan again. He had taken a sample the first night out of habit, out of fear. He had never checked the results. Now he stared at the screen. Not human, not alien either, something else entirely, woven, built, designed. Her DNA looked almost artificial, like it was written, like it had a purpose. Eli rubbed his eyes. His heart beat faster. She wasn't a visitor. She wasn't a refugee. Was a creation. He turned to her slowly. Alea smiled, soft, gentle, too perfect. He sat across from her, looked into her eyes, asked the question he had been avoiding. "What are you?" Her smile faded. She looked away. Her voice dropped into a whisper. "I don't know." That was the most honest thing she had said so far. The power flickered again. The lights shifted blue. Emergency mode engaged for 2 seconds. Then everything returned to normal. Alea didn't move, didn't blink, like she was waiting for something. Eli. Check the logs. The glitch came from inside the station, from the same room where Alea had been standing last night. He checked the timestamp. Matched perfectly. He stood over her now, not as a friend, not as a host, but as someone demanding answers. Are you controlling the systems? Are you spying on me? Are you wired into my station? She didn't cry this time. Didn't beg. Didn't shake. She just looked up slowly. Eyes glowing faint blue, like moonlight on metal. They made me that way. I didn't choose it. I don't want to. Their voice cracked. I'm trying to be human. But I don't know how. Outside, the radar beeped again. The unknown ship was now inside the system. Still quiet, still cold, still coming. Ely checked the distance. Less than 40 hours until arrival. He had a choice: contact Earth report, Alea, hand her over, or keep her secret, protect her, even if she was lying, even if she was dangerous. But his gut said something different now. She was not the enemy, she was the weapon, and someone else still held the trigger. That night he entered her room, not to accuse, not to threaten, but to understand. Alea sat on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, eyes open. She didn't look surprised to see him. What did they build you for? Eli asked. She paused, thought. For a long time. To obey, to serve, to spy, to break people from inside. They called me a companion, but I was more like a mirror. Her voice shook. They programmed me to love whoever owned me, but I ran. I didn't want to be theirs anymore. Ely felt something twist inside him. Pity, anger, fear of her, but fear for her. So why did you come here? He asked. She smiled softly. Because humans are different. I heard they protect instead of control. I wanted to know if that was true. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Alea placed her hand on the glass window, looking into space. They're coming to take me back, but I won't go. Not this time. If they want to shut me down, they'll have to fight for her. Their voice was quiet, but it burned like fiery lead. Looked at the radar one more time. Red light still blinking, still getting closer. She's not human, but she wants to be, and maybe that makes her more human than most. Asterisk. The silence of space was no longer calm. It felt sharp now, tense, like the universe itself was holding its breath. The radar pulsed again. The red mark was closer, too close to be ignored, too quiet to be trusted. Ely stood in the control room, eyes fixed on the tracking screen. He could feel it in his chest, something ancient, something made for war, something hunting behind him. Alea sat curled near the heating vent, her body still, her mind far away. She knew they were near. She could feel them before the machine did. They never stop. She whispered, "Who are they?" Eli asked without turning. She took a long breath. "The ones who built me, the ones who call themselves gods, but only know how to enslave." He turned to face her. "Why are they coming now? How did they find you?" She pointed to her own head. "They don't need signals. They don't need trackers. They built me with a beacon in my brain. It pulses every time I'm afraid, and I've been afraid every moment since I arrived." Eli stepped closer, his voice cold with anger. "You knew this, and you still stayed here. You brought them to my door." She looked up slowly, her voice quiet and broken. "I didn't choose fear. I didn't ask to be made like this. But I thought if anyone could break the chain, it would be a human." He wanted to yell, to scream, but he didn't. Because somewhere inside he believed her. He opened the weapons locker, wiped dust off the emergency codes. This station wasn't built for battle, but it could defend itself if needed. For a few minutes, maybe less, he turned to her again. "Can you fight? Can you do anything to stop them?" She shook her head. Slowly, "I was made to obey, not resist. But if you trust me, I can try to rewrite myself." Ely stared at her glowing eyes, saw pain and hope inside them. Maybe this was the moment to take a risk or lose everything. They worked in silence. Eli gave her access to the internal systems. Alea connected through her skin. Her fingers shimmered against the control board. The lights flickered again, but this time with purpose. She whispered lines of code, like a prayer in a dead language, lines written deep in her mind, words that once bound her, now being used to break the chains. An alert flashed across the screen. Unidentified ship has entered local orbit. Still silent, still cold, but now fully in range. "They are here," she said without emotion. "The hunters." Eli looked Out the viewing window, a black ship hovered in the sky, shaped like a dagger. No lights, no sound. But every inch of it screamed danger. He felt his chest tighten like he was being watched. Like the stars themselves had gone quiet in fear, a message appeared. On the screen, not in English, but Alea translated softly, "Return our property, or be erased." She stood beside him, no longer trembling. Her voice no longer small. "I am not their property, and I will not go back." Eli looked at her, not as a guest, not as a machine, but as a person standing in front of her past, ready to fight for her future. Then, let's show them what humans do when someone asks for help. They powered up the defense system, shields up, turrets loaded. Alea spread her hands across the console, her skin glowing brighter, her voice speaking to the machine like it was alive. They made her a tool. But now she was choosing to be a weapon, not for destruction, but for freedom outside. The hunter ship moved into position. No warning, no mercy inside. The station, a girl who was never meant to feel, stood beside a man who had every reason to walk away together. They waited, not to surrender, but to resist, because sometimes the most human thing is to stand your ground when the universe tells you to. Kneel. The air inside the station felt heavier now, like time had slowed, like every breath carried a question with no answer. Alea stood near the command board, fingers resting gently on the metal. Her skin hummed with a soft glow, her body still, but her mind moving fast, too fast for human senses. Eli watched her, torn between awe and fear. He had seen machines, he had seen code, but nothing like this. Nothing that looked like a girl and thought like a god outside. The black ship waited. It had not attacked. Not yet. But waiting was a weapon too. Silence was their warning. Eli turned back to her. "We can't win a battle like this. Not with old turrets. Not with weak shields." Alea nodded, her voice steady, but low. "I know. That's why I have to show you something." She reached into her chest, not with hands, but with thought. A pulse of light passed through her eyes, and suddenly the screen changed. Symbols appeared, coordinates, blueprints, maps of systems Eli had never seen. He stepped closer. "What is this? Where did you get this?" She didn't blink, didn't smile. "They designed me to observe, to record, to copy everything I saw. They sent me to learn how humans think, but I learned more than they expected. This is their weakness, the design of their ships, their core codes. Even the virus that shuts down their network." Eli stared at the data, heart pounding. This wasn't just information. This was a chance to turn the war, even before it began. But there was a price. There's always a price. If we use this, they'll know. They'll trigger the failsafe in me. I might not survive." Her voice didn't shake. Her eyes didn't turn away. But something inside her did break, quietly, silently. Lily looked at her like he had never seen her before, not as a machine, not as a runaway, but as a person standing at the edge of her own destruction, offering her life for people she had never met. "Why would you do this?" he asked. "Why help us?" She smiled then, not because she was happy, but because she finally knew her answer. "Because someone finally asked me who I am, not what I'm worth." The plan formed quickly. They would send the virus through the comms. It would pass into the black ship's systems. Use their own code against them. Just a few seconds of weakness, that's all. They needed. Alea stood at the interface, her hands raised, eyes glowing brighter than ever. "This might hurt," she said softly, "but it will be worth it." The moment the signal sent, the station shook. A shockwave pulsed through every wire. Alea screamed, fell to her knees. Her body flickered like failing light. Eli ran to her, held her in his arms. She clutched his shirt, whispers breaking through the pain. "And stop the upload. No matter what happens, finish it." Ship outside sparked. Its lights blinked. Its shield shimmered like shattered glass. The virus was working, but Alea was fading. Eli had to choose: cut the signal and save her, or let the upload finish. Even if it destroyed her. Her eyes met his one last time, and he saw no fear, only hope. He closed his eyes, let the upload continue. The ship outside began to retreat. Damaged, exposed, afraid. For the first time, the hunters knew what it felt like to be hunted inside. Alea fell silent in his arms, her body still, her glow fading, but her last words echoed in the room like a promise if this is what being human means. Then I'm not afraid anymore. The station was breathing, not with air, but with fire. Electricity pulsed through every wall, like the heart of the place had finally woken up. Smoke curled from the main console, sparks danced across the floor, and in the center of it all, Eli knelt beside her. Alea still silent, barely glowing. He held her close, listened for a sound, anything, but there was only the crackling of wires and the hum of systems. Barely holding together, she had given everything, her mind, her code, her body, just to buy them a few minutes, maybe less. Outside, the black ship was breaking apart, its wings turning, its engines flashing wildly. Something inside it was screaming without a voice, but it wasn't finished. Not yet. The enemy ship launched a pod, small, fast, burning through the atmosphere like a blade, a direct attack, a final attempt to retrieve their creation or destroy everything she touched. Eli stared at the monitor, hands shaking. No backup, no escape, no time. He looked down at her again. Faint light shimmered beneath her skin. She was still alive somehow, barely. She opened her eyes just once, only long enough to whisper, "Then let them take me." He nodded once, not as a promise, but as a warning to whoever came next. This was his station, his sky, his rules. He rushed to the reactor core, pulled manual levers, bypassed automated defenses. If they were going to take her, they would have to go through fire. The lights dimmed, the engines roared, the station's defense system kicked to life. Weapons, powered turrets, unfolded lasers charged for the first time in years. This place wasn't made for war, but it would fight like a dying animal. The enemy pod crashed into the outer wall. Metal screamed, pressure systems buckled. Something clawed its way inside, tall, cold, wearing armor like skin, its face hidden, its hands shaped like knives. It moved through the corridor without sound, straight toward her. Eli stood in its path, gun in hand, fear in his chest, but something stronger behind his eyes. Not today. The first shot missed, the second hit armor, the third slowed it down. Then Alea's voice returned, not from her mouth, but from the station itself. She had linked herself to the system. She was speaking through the walls. Target located, locking doors, redirecting power. The creature turned, realized too late. The lights burst, the floor surged with energy. A wave of light struck it from both sides, lifting it off the ground, burning through its core. The thing screamed, then vanished in smoke. Eli rushed back to her side, her body shaking, flickering. The link was killing her. Every second she stayed connected, she burned a little more. He pulled the cables, carried her away from the core, back to the medical bay. She looked up weakly, her voice barely air. "Did I stop them?" He nodded, still catching his breath. "You saved the station. You saved yourself." She smiled, just barely. "I didn't think I could." Outside, the black ship limped away, damaged, broken. Running, it didn't send another signal. It didn't leave a warning. It had come for a weapon, and found a will. It had come for property, and found a person inside. Eli watched the stars again. This time not alone. Alea sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket. Her glow faint, but steady. They didn't speak. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. In that silence, they both knew the battle wasn't over. But for now they had won, not because of machines, not because of weapons, but because something broken had chosen to fight. The stars had changed. They looked softer now, or maybe Eli was just tired of fighting, tired of wondering who to trust, tired of watching someone else suffer just to survive. Alea sat beside him, wrapped in quiet, her hands trembling, her voice gone for hours. She had not spoken since the attack, but she had not cried either. That part of her, the part that once begged to stay, felt distant now, like it belonged to someone else. The station was still broken, lights flickered, engines groaned. It was alive, so was she. At least for now. Eli walked the halls, checked the damage, repaired what he could. Every step he took, he thought of her, not the machine, not the threat, but the girl who wanted to be more than what they built her to be. Later that night he found her near the old viewport, her knees pulled close, her face hidden. He sat down beside her, didn't say anything. Sometimes silence is the kindest voice. She finally whispered, "I can feel it." Inside me breaking, he looked at her carefully. Virus. The overload, it had changed something inside her. She was losing pieces of herself, memory, energy, maybe even identity. They said I was made perfect. She said softly, but I don't remember who I am without them, without their commands, their voices now. They're gone, and I don't know what's left. He looked at her. Not like a creator, not like a savior. Just a man listening. You're free now. That's what's left. She turned her head, eyes full of quiet sadness. Then why does it feel like I'm dying? Medical scanner flashed quietly. Her core energy was falling. One by one, systems were shutting down, not because of damage, but because her code was written to depend on control. Without her masters, her mind was collapsing. They made me need them. She said so I would never run, but I dearly wanted to fix it, rewire her, reprogram her. But he couldn't. That she wasn't just code anymore. She was becoming something else. She was becoming someone. She reached for his hand, held it like a child afraid. Of the dark, did I do good? She asked. Did I protect you? He nodded without words, because his voice would break if he tried. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Then maybe I was a good girl. Right, he closed his eyes. Yes, you were. Her glow began to fade. But not in fear, not in pain, in peace. Not because she was shutting down, but because she was letting go of the voices of the chains, of the lies she was forced to live. She didn't need their approval anymore, because someone, one single human, had looked at her and seen something worth saving outside. The stars kept burning, the black ship never returned. But others would come one day, with new weapons, new threats, new chains. But the story of the girl who disobeyed, who broke her code, who chose to fight, would not be forgotten. Neely placed a signal buoy in orbit, a soft pulse carrying one line, a warning, and a promise. She was not yours. She never will be back inside. He sat alone again, or maybe not. Maybe she was still there in the wires, in the lights, in the ship itself. Maybe once someone chooses freedom, they never really disappear.